welcome, and I'm excited about this morning, and I'm just going to take it really slow. This way I can give people time to catch up. And again, this is a really great learning for me because okay, it's 11 p.m. Oh wow, my goodness. I can't even stay up till midnight for New Year's, so I'm impressed. So anyhow, this was a good learning process. Unlike when you're doing a live workshop, I can kind of look around the room, or people can go, oh, give me a few more seconds to finish. So I guess I'm gonna have to do that again, and then maybe just chat a little bit and wait for people to catch up. But and I'm going to repeat this again, especially when we get closer to 11. That it's so funny to use the word journey. Okay, but watercolor is kind of a journey. You're not going to learn everything all at once. And I mentioned this yesterday. You are never going to see an artist's failures. When I've done art shows, I've said that over and over. You're not going to see all the paintings that I threw away, or that one painting that everybody thinks is spectacular, and I'm really proud of the job I've done on it. You're not going to see that it took me 3 different tries to get that painting looking good. And in the beginning, it probably took me a good year of just painting over and over and over the same thing before I finally felt like I really understood painting with a limited palette. So even though I'm hard on myself, don't be hard on yourself. And if you haven't done this before, you are just learning. Nothing happens overnight. And one day, believe it or not, and I know this because I asked another artist this, when is this going to click? I don't understand, there's a lot of things about that painting process that I don't understand. And she gave me some good advice and said, just, you have to give it time. You have to keep painting over and over again. And then here and there, little things will start clicking. That aha moment will come about. And you're going to say, oh my gosh, I'm starting to understand what value means now. And I'm going to go over that again as we get closer. Ooh, there's a little fly flying around. Dang little thing. Yeah, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, and I'm going to take it really slow. So don't feel like your image looks terrible. If you saw after I finished the stream last night, pretty quickly it went on, and you can rewatch it as much as you want, and it's going to be the same with this. And as we get closer to 2 o'clock, even I don't know how close I'm going to get to all the little details. So you know what? Not a big deal. Let's go ahead and just do maybe another 2-hour thing next Saturday. I want people to let me know what they think. I don't have any problems. This is good practice for me, teaching this way in a live stream. So I would absolutely love to keep going on this until we can really get in some beautiful details. So yeah, we can certainly do this again. I would love this. And I also really want to do some basic streams on just the water, which is really important. Getting the correct amount of water, what water does with different thicknesses of paint, whether you have a very watery mix versus a very thin mix. So even though I have a few of these tutorials on my Thinkific website, I just think this will come across really well live. So I'm going to be starting to do some of those too now that I'm feeling really comfortable with the live stream. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this. So I'm excited to paint today. So if anybody did not get a chance to go on to the discuss on my website, not on Facebook, I maybe should have made that a little bit more clear because some people had a little bit of trouble. But that's okay. We're just going to keep going. And this is a learning experience for me too. I definitely see and I'm listening to everybody on what I could also be doing to help everybody out. And I absolutely would never trash anybody else who teaches watercolor workshops or films tutorials or does a live stream. But I had somebody say to me one day that they really appreciated the fact that I got up and walked around the room when I'm doing live workshops and help people and talk about the problems, that I don't just sit up in the front and let everybody kind of flounder. Honestly, I this may sound goofy, but it's really important to me that I help you as much as I possibly can and that I go above and beyond. I just don't want to do streams or workshops or tutorials and then go, oh, yep, I'm done. It's all up to you. I don't have time to be, showing people or giving me little hints. And that's why I have my Facebook group. So even if people aren't signed up for my website or they aren't watching all my free tutorials or even my paid ones, I love helping people and I feel like that's giving back and it will be full circle and that's going to come back to me. So I just really want you to know it's not just about money. Obviously this one's free, so it's not, but it's really important to me that everybody gets the most out of this that you can. And it's just not, another, okay, here's what you do. Step 1, put this color on, put this color on. I really want you to learn to paint, not just follow a tutorial. So I just wanted to get all that out of the way and say that. And, I'll probably say that a few more times. I really actually want everyone to learn and to get excited and happy when something clicks and I see an improvement in your painting, and basically you see an improvement in your painting. So that's very important. Okay, so let's see, Shannon, you're saying think how to manage the water on your brush in a consistent way is really critical. It was a huge help that I learned in Stan Miller's class. Yes, absolutely. People get this idea that you have to have loose watercolors, that it's just something, you just dip your brush in water and you throw it on the paper and boom, and you leave it and that's your painting. That's one style of painting, but it's not my style of painting. And I think it is important that if you don't want to paint like this, that you want your paintings to look more like acrylics or oils. Yes, absolutely, that's possible. And the way you get to that is by having a good control over your water, the paper that you use. And we actually didn't talk about that a lot yesterday. So I'm going to try to talk about that again. 300-pound paper, it's a game changer. And excuse me, still the tail end of my cold. But nothing wrong with a 140-pound paper, but it's very temperamental. It just doesn't seem to absorb water and build value, at least in my experience, the way 300-pound paper does. So with 140-pound paper, you've got to stretch it, you have to wet it, soak it, stretch it, staple it down to a board, and my gosh, that's a lot of work. And if it doesn't turn out the way you want, it's really hard to use the backside. You've got to take it off of the board, and then you have to wait and prep another board. Or another way to do it is to buy the watercolor pads that are glued, and that's one way to get around that problem if you can't afford to paint with 300-pound paper. But boy, 300-pound paper is a game changer to me. I've learned so much about layering and scrubbing. That's a big thing. I can keep scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. So, and again, if you just start to come in on the stream, obviously it's not starting for another 15 minutes, but the good thing is this will all be on the rewatchable video. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to do more streams and talk about paper. And I also want to say this, it shouldn't matter whether it's all about it being a hobby or that this is something that you really, really want to do. Maybe you want to sell your paintings. Really paying attention to buying the best paint that you can, and the best paper, and good brushes. And good brushes doesn't mean expensive. So I just think all this is really important, and definitely learning all the things that I'm trying to teach you while we are painting. So I'm really excited when we get started. Hopefully more people will be joining in here soon. Again, I just started it early because we have to do this workaround to my OBS and not going straight over to YouTube. That will be something to work on later. But for now, this is working, and my son told me that's all that counts, Mom. It doesn't matter how you get there. It's that you figured it out. Maybe not the way that your program is telling you or YouTube said, but it's just the fact that I'm here and it's exciting, and you guys are all going to be watching for another 3 hours. So it's all good. And Shannon is also saying, I love the idea of another live stream. Oh yeah, I'm going to definitely keep doing these. To me, even though there are limitations, obviously you're not all sitting in front of me. I can't see how your paintings are going right away, but it's as close as we can get to being in an actual room together. And who knows what's going to happen with COVID this winter. If it gets bad again, any avenues that I do have for teaching live workshops may close up again. I don't know, but I think that this is a great workaround. And I get to talk and chat, and it's a little bit easier than filming tutorials. Oh my gosh. I cannot tell you how much time and effort has to go into filming at least even a small tutorial and the editing. I actually prefer this. This does not mean that I'm going to stop filming tutorials. I just really want to really go into these live streams. I'm loving this. Oh, Peggy! Hi, Peggy! It's a beautiful Sunday in Ohio, 80 degrees. Wow. Okay. So again, I'm in Arizona. I'm in Prescott Valley, Arizona, and it is near Prescott, Arizona. We're about 7-8 miles away. But the area of Arizona that we live in is the northern area, and we're at a mile-high altitude, and it's very mountainous. So a couple weeks ago, we had 80, almost getting to 90-degree weather, and it was super hot. And then a few days later, we're getting snow, it's freezing cold, we've had awful wind, and we have a really bad fire a little bit south of us in the Bradshaw Mountains. And I'm really worried for all the people that live in that area because it's slowly been heading, it's about 10 miles south of Prescott, so it's been getting close. So a lot of people live out in those areas, so we're really hoping it doesn't get any closer to them. But yeah, so right now it's a little chilly. Our wind chill factor is really high, so I find it interesting that you're in Ohio and you have 80 degrees. That's just... There's a saying here that one day you're wearing a bathing suit and the next day you're wearing a snowsuit. So hopefully by next week we should have consistently warm weather. So we'll see. But hi, Anita. Good morning. So glad to be here again today. We've all just been chatting away, and or should I say, I've just been chatting away. So, but again, as people start joining in, you can rewatch it. You can skip through the first 30 minutes, get right to the painting, or you can watch, our little talk, and yeah, there we go. So does anybody have any questions about yesterday? Again, I'm going to say this. I'm going to slow down a little bit and give it a few minutes for everybody to catch up. And please go ahead and post a comment and say, let's slow down a little bit. This was a little bit complicated, and I have no problems waiting and just chatting away. So, oh, good, more people are joining up. My lap, ooh, me lap. Hopefully I can remember it. I think you were telling me yesterday how that was pronounced. You're from Christchurch, New Zealand. Monday morning at 5:50 a.m. Wow, yeah. I'm glad to see you, and I'm glad you feel that it was worth getting up for. That really makes me feel good. Okay. Oh, Pat Edwards, but we might see some snow on Wednesday here in Ohio. Oh, okay. So don't know if you're happy about that or not. It's so funny. We're trying to get ready for planting all the outdoor garden stuff, but it's always a gamble at this point in the year. You really should wait till after Mother's Day. But I always like to put some seeds out first. But I've seen snow here in June, so we'll see what happens. And let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, she said that. Oh, can't wait to start today. Yesterday's lesson was so good. I learned so much. Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. And you may not have heard this earlier, but when you rewatch it, you can see some of the things that I've been talking about. I just don't want to teach this step by step. Okay, here's the colors that you use. I really want everybody to learn why painting with a limited palette is so important, how you build harmony in your painting and value, and just really start building glow with those transparent colors. So I really want you to get some other things out of here. And let me say this, even if you think your image looks awful, I saw an image, I can't remember who posted it yesterday on the discuss on the website, the very bottom chapter, and it didn't seem like you were very happy, but one thing I noticed was the beautiful dark value that you built from the tea inside of the cup. You should be really proud of yourself for getting to that point with those three colors, because honestly, people look at those three colors and go, how in the world am I going to get browns and oranges and burnt siennas? And so that is really what this painting isn't about. It's not really about the teacup and the lace and the background. It's more about you're learning to mix those colors, and you're learning to create that harmony in your painting. So Sila here, back for the class. Thank you. Yay. nice to see you. Good morning. Oh, Smitha, I couldn't stay up last night. I hope to stay up tonight. Well, I don't blame you. I said a little bit ago, I can't even make it to New Year's, so congratulations on that. Oh, Shannon, sounds like your weather is similar to ours. We had a snow a few days ago, 57 degrees. Oh, and you also had a wildfire, but yeah, it's getting common. Any of you that are living here in the West, we're seeing more and more wildfires and dry weather. So yeah, I just hope we don't get another big one, but I'm sure that we are definitely going to get some more this season. And this was an early start, so oh, good evening from Poland. It's 7:54 p.m. Good evening. Hopefully you have a cup of herbal tea or coffee to keep you good going. Let's see. Sila could not find the discussion. Where is that? Okay, I'm not sure what discussion you're talking about. So we're all watching the chat, and you can see it right on the side. I did have a friend of mine, Anita. She was saying that if you blow up this stream to fill your screen, it can make the chat disappear. At least that's what she experienced. Excuse me. But I'm thinking that's what you're talking about. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been asking where the discussion is. Duh. Okay, so yes, the discussion after we're done with this is on my Thinkific website, my Watercolors That Glow, where you got all of the downloads and the image. At the very bottom on the left-hand side, where you see all the chapters, at the very bottom is the discussion. That way you can go ahead and post your image in case you don't want, however many people who are on YouTube to see it, because this is public. So I just made that separate discussion, just if you were feeling uncomfortable with showing your painting and you needed me to kind of give you some ideas about how to get it better. So yeah, there you go. You've got it. So where the paintings were discussed, yes, that was it. So yes. And I could understand why some people didn't go there, because obviously it's really late. You're just going to bed. But that will be up forever, so we can keep going back. I'll get notifications letting me know when somebody posts a painting. And so what had happened yesterday, I had started the discussion and I thought, nobody's here. Okay, maybe everybody's tired. So I'm talking to my friend Anita on the phone. She's letting me know what she thought of how it went. And then I came back 10 minutes later and everybody had found it and started posting. So, oh, good. Okay, so I will try to make that clear again at the end of this painting session. And for anybody that wasn't here earlier, if we do not get this done in this 3 hours, we'll just do another stream. It won't be right away, but it can be, I don't know, maybe people might like it during the week better, in the mornings, in the evenings, but we can definitely do it again within this week or even Saturday or Sunday. Whatever works out best for everybody, just let me know and we'll keep going on it. I don't just want to quit this and go, okay, well, that's it. We're not going to keep painting. I really want everybody to see the conclusion to this and see how it's going to turn out. So I think what I'm going to do is oh wait, it's not even 11 yet. So let's give it a few more minutes, and I'm drinking some herbal tea here so I can keep hydrated. And does anybody have any questions, go ahead and throw them out there. It's going to take me about 10-15 seconds to see your question, but I would love to answer any questions you got. Let me tell you about some of the things I did while I'm waiting for any questions that I did yesterday after we ended the live stream. I came back and I kind of cleaned up some of my edges. I'm going to show you what I did, and then I'm going to give you an example of how I did that. I went and cleaned things back up because I'm very farsighted. So, I'm very nearsighted. I need glasses to see far away. So I got down really close, and it's very hard to do that when you're filming, because if I did that, all you would be seeing is my head. Nobody wants to look at my head. So I kind of just cleaned up some edges and just really took time to look at this and see where we needed to keep going with it. So that's what I kind of did last night after we were done painting. The other thing I had to do was mount it onto a piece of just matting, and I normally don't do that, but it needed to be a little bit stiffer. And even with 300-pound paper, it will still buckle a little bit, especially if you do what I do and soak it with, so that that water really gets down into the paper. Normally, and I didn't mention this yesterday, so I want to show you this. This is my Gator Boards that I use, and I have a whole bunch of them. And what it is it's a laminate, like a plastic laminate on the outside, and on the inside, try to put that up close, let's see. The inside is a foam core. So you can buy this in all kinds of standard painting ratios, or you can get a big giant sheet of it and you can cut it down. You just cut on the surface with an X-Acto knife, and then you can crack it and score it and cut it. But I love this stuff. I have sheets that I have had for 10, 15 years. And then you can just paint, attach your image to this. And I have some free videos on that too, on how to prep your paper. But I love it because it's super light. It's foam core, but it's a little bit heavier than foam core sheets that you see for backing or school projects. So I love Gator Board. So anyhow, I just kind of attached it to a piece of my matting so that it's not lifted too high and it doesn't make weird sounds when I'm painting. So that's my one exception to this. Oh, good. Hi, Pat. Hi, Diane. Hi, Nancy. Oh, so let's see. Nancy is saying she realized that she was using Winsor & Newton's nickel titanate. Yeah. Lemon Yellow PY53. You can substitute it for PY150, but here's what's going to happen. I know I rant on a lot about Nickle Azo Yellow, the PY150. That Winsor & Newton Lemon Yellow, the PY53, is not very transparent. So if you start adding a lot of layers, it's going to lift a little bit. You can. I mean, you have it and you want to get, I'm sure you want to get painting, but just be aware that I stress Nickle Azo Yellow, and I might add that I have a download, and I hope I put it in the downloads. If not, I'll add it back in, and it shows all the colors that I love, that I know and have learned that are the most transparent, the most staining, the most permanent. And PY53, that lemon yellow, isn't as permanent as the Nickle Azo Yellow. And I keep saying Nickle Azo Yellow, but I really should be saying PY150. Always go by the pigment ID number. And here's why. Winsor & Newton also makes a single pigment color, the PY150, but they call it transparent yellow. So that might throw you off a little bit. So Winsor & Newton calls it transparent yellow, but it's still pigment PY150. M. Graham calls it Nickle Azo Yellow, but it's still PY150. And I'm sure if you look, maybe Daniel Smith or Sennelier, Holbein, maybe they have it also. I haven't really checked, but you just have to go by the pigment number. I wish there was a little bit more industry standards about labeling paint, but obviously paint companies want to make it sound as pretty as it can be. Rainbow yellow, transparent yellow. M. Graham is really good about not using so many marketing names. They try to stick with calling it by that chemical name, which is nickel azomethane yellow. So Nickle Azo Yellow. Okay, Shannon's saying a cheaper alternative is to buy insulation board from your hardware store. Yeah, I suppose you could do that. I never have. I think Gator Board is actually really reasonable in price for what you get. If you tend to paint in one size, let's say you paint 12 by 9, you can get one of their boards. You could get the 12 by, let's see, so 9, 10, 11, 12. You can get their bigger board, which I think is 10 by 16 maybe. And it lasts forever. I mean, I've had some of mine for 10 plus years. So I just like it that it's really light. You can staple to it. You can clean it off really easy. Okay, and so I can only get Daniel Smith Nickel Azo Yellow. Yeah, as long as it says PY150, that is actually the Nickel Azo Methane Yellow. So that's still that's what it is. I mean, the companies can call it whatever they want, but as long as you see that pigment ID number on the outside of that tube of paint, or you go on most Daniel Smith, Cheap Joe's, oh gosh, I'm blanking on some of the other art supply houses, but they'll usually, if you click on that tube of paint, it will give you all the specs. Otherwise, you have to look and you have to squint to see to see where the info is. They make it so small, but it's on there. It's on that tube, and that's how you know to pay attention to what you're getting, because I don't think some companies really want to be as forthcoming with what's in their paints, which is sad. Okay, so hopefully we're going to get some more people here showing up, or you may be and you're just not on the chat. So let's go back very quickly, and I am going to show the teacup comparison again. Okay, so I want you all to take another really good look at that, because now we're going to be really adding in those dark values on those stripes. And because that background underneath that lace and where the stripes are is pretty, it's a painterly effect, obviously, because it's an image that's been printed on cloth of a painting. So there's not going to be a lot of detail, and it's going to go, you know, a little bit quicker than what we've been doing on the teacup, and then we're going to come back to the teacup. So if you really look at that black and white image, you can definitely see that compared with my painting, I'm going to have to be even filling in a little bit more shadows. But now the shadows that we're going to be filling in are going to be a little bit more colorful. And I'm going to show you that again. Let's go to my image. So what I did last night was I just kind of went in and I just cleaned up some of these edges, because again, it's very hard for me to see, even though I'm probably only 5 or 6 inches away. Sometimes I have to get really, really close to see things. And what I did too was I just came in here and cleaned up some of these lines around these edges. And I was missing some of these lines in this area, so I filled those in too. And I found a couple of areas around the edges that needed some more lines. And here's what was really important. I actually went here and I kind of curved these lines. I paid a little bit more attention and blew up the image of that teacup, so I could see actually that those little vines, little branches were actually curving around the edge. And I think that has really helped to give this painting, to make that saucer look a little bit more curved around the edges. But when I go back to that black and white, I can definitely see that we're going to have to add a little bit more color right in here. But here's going to be the nice part. I am not going to be wetting the whole thing, waiting for that water to sink in. We're just going to go right into painting the wet on dry and adding in those a little bit more of the color. But if you go back now and you look at that first video that we did yesterday, wow, what a difference already. I went back and of course I'm looking at it this morning, and it almost looks like we didn't even put any shadows in there. That's why transparent staining colors are so important. And I'm going to say this again. Transparent staining colors are important because they sink down into the paper. You can go slow. You can take your time. You can add a layer. You don't have to worry about getting that value up. to what you need it to be. You may start out here, but as you keep adding layers, and remember, those colors are staining. So they're going to stay where you put them. You're not going to have to worry about those colors lifting up. And then eventually, as you keep getting to layers, you're going to get to that darkest value eventually. So, and you're going to see this. When I start adding these colors, you're going to go, she's right. She's painting over those beautiful lines, and she's not getting that color underneath to lift. That's why staining, transparent, staining colors, you're using that staining to your advantage. I can't tell you how many times and how many books I have, and I probably have 100 different watercolor books, how artists will say, stay away from staining colors. They're scary. They're very strong, and you can't control them. It's going to stain your paper. Well, that's what you want. You want to be able to build those beautiful values, and learning how to control it is just it's part of putting paint on paper. So, oh, Laura, greetings from Mexico. Hola. Hello. You're right on our border. Hello and welcome. So yes, now I'm going to go ahead and go right into putting that color down. And another thing, my palette, you're probably all seeing my palette. And what I've done is I now have two. Here's a clean one because I want nice clean colors to be able to get in those gorgeous, beautiful, colorful shadows that we're going to have. And let me move that to the side, and ta-da! That is my palette towards the end of the day from yesterday. But here's the thing. I don't want to lose all those mixes that I have in there. I want to keep those. So I'm going to put this aside, and when we go to do darker colors again, or we go back to finish up, especially in here, I want to keep those beautiful colors, and I'm going to show them up close here. And they've all dried, but I don't want to lose them. So I will be able to spray that again with this lovely little sprayer that I have. It just sends out a fine mist. Yeah, so there we go. That was my palette. And it was funny too, because as we got towards the end of the painting, I'm over here trying to find little itty bitty tiny spots to mix some nice, clean, bright colors. But so I'm going to set this off to the side. And we're going back to my second clean palette. And I actually do that a lot when I'm painting. I'll have 2 or 3 palettes going on, especially if it's a big painting and I just want to make sure that I keep my mixes. Because sometimes I jump around. Believe it or not, sometimes I get bored with an area. Bored is not a good word. I just need to stop looking at it for a while. So I'll go paint a different area, and I absolutely do not want to lose my mixes. So I went ahead and did that this morning. But let's leave putting in those shadows for later. And I mentioned this yesterday. As I am looking at it, I am not quite sure about how much darker to get this. I think what I need is to be putting in some of those background colors. And we're not going to do a big wetting on that. We're just going to do each little area on its own, and that way we can not have to wait to be blow drying as much. So let's go ahead and get started on some of those lemons. Okay, I'm enlarging my image. Okay, let me back that up a little bit. So here's what we want to do. We're going to start with the lemons. Those are the lightest values. So we're actually going to start with the lemons and the leaves. We're going to get all those put in. Then we're going to go back, and by that time, most of our lemons will be dry, and there's not very many of them. Then we can go ahead and get the black put in. I had to stop for a minute to think if I wanted to put in some of the lemons behind where the lace is, because I mentioned this yesterday. I want to kind of get in a little bit of a nice warm wash right over the lace before we start filling in all those little tiny squares. And that's really how we're going to create that lace. We're not going to be creating the lace by painting the lace. We're going to be creating the lace by negative painting these little back areas. So I'm actually deciding if I want to do those as we get those mixes. But I'm going to go ahead and start a lemon. And we'll see. We'll see a little bit later how I'm feeling about that. So one thing I'm going to do is just pick up a little bit of those lines. I'm not so worried about the lines around. Let me make sure you guys are okay. Just wanted to make sure you were seeing every part of it. So I think I'm just going to pick up a little bit around the lemons, and back to what I was just cut myself off on. I'm not going to worry about the lines around the black because those are going to be covered with that really dark value. So just going to lighten it just a little bit. Oh, and something else, and hopefully I don't forget about this, and somebody maybe you want to remind me. I want to talk about transferring images. I know if a lot of you have seen my tutorials on transferring an image, you know I talk about this a lot. I actually use a digital projector to get my image onto paper, and it's really sad because so many people, I think this is overly pretentious, and actually it's not. So many people are against that, thinking it's cheating. It's actually not, and I'll go over that a little bit as we get towards the end of the painting, and we'll talk about that some. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with that lemon right there. Here's what I'm going to do. I've got nice clean water. I'm going to start with this lemon right here. Now, I'm not going to worry so much about that water sinking in completely. There's a couple of reasons. One of them is we're obviously kind of pressed for time, but not really. If anybody didn't hear me or didn't join early, and you can, if you rewatch the first part of it, which you may want to, because I talk about a lot of things, you may want to keep in mind that I'm going to, if I don't finish this completely today, we'll do another live stream. We can do it on the following weekend. We can do it during the week. And we'll finish up, or you can watch me finish up whatever I didn't get done in this tutorial. So don't stress or think that you're going to be stuck once this is 3 hours is up, because we'll go ahead and do another one. Okay, so here's what I am going to do. Let me just double check, make sure okay, good. Can see my palette well. Okay. Very fresh, clean water. Keep in mind, yellow is your easiest color to contaminate. Keep it clean. Obviously, no colors are near it. It's fresh right out of the tube this morning. And it had even a little itty bitty tiny amount of another color can contaminate your yellow. So if I'm doing an area where I want my yellows to really glow and be bright, I will start out with completely fresh yellow. And that's the other reason why I don't like painting in a big palette where it has the little palette wells, because it's almost impossible to clean out your yellows. Okay, I think my yellow is thin enough. Got a nice watery mixture going on there. And so I'm going to stay away from that side, and I'm going to drop in some yellow right here. Now, here is the great thing. And if you're not painting with this PY150, this is, to me, it's like magic. I love this color. And one of the reasons why I love this pigment so much is if you're looking at my yellow, it almost looks brown in some areas. So it's almost like a two-tone. As you add more water, it gets sunny and it just gets bright. The darker and thicker the color is, the more it looks like, and I'm sure a lot of you have painted with quinacridone gold. I used to love quinacridone gold. And, you know, I mean, there are paintings I've had where I've substituted quinacridone gold for a yellow, but very rarely. And that was usually years ago. The fun thing about PY150 is it gets really dark as it gets thicker. So now you don't have to go and add in an opposite color to try to drop the value down on it. So watch what's going to happen. Isn't that beautiful? So I've used a very almost dry mixture up at that top. It's pretty thick, and what in the heck is that on there? Okay, let's get that off. See how it got nice? It's almost a quinacridone gold look. So I didn't have to add anything to it. I have my very thin watery mixture, which made that beautiful area of the yellow just very light. And then I'm using a thicker amount in those darker areas. I love that. I love that about Quin Gold, or I'm sorry, Nickle Azo Yellow. It's wonderful. So now I'm just kind of blending that out just a little bit right there. And so this is why I was saying that the background is going to go a little bit quicker. Not going to have to do a whole lot to these lemons. And here's the other fun part about painting with yellow. I usually start with yellow, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned that yesterday. One of the reasons why I start with yellow is because I think a painting is almost like a new friend or a date. You don't know that painting yet. You're a little bit apprehensive. What do I talk about? Where do I start? Am I going to get along with this painting? That's how I always kind of look at it. So yellow is such a light valued color. You cannot have your water saturated exactly the way you want, and it's forgiving because a lot of things are going to go on top of your yellow. It's your base to your painting. So hopefully I'll do a live stream on that too. I'm going to be doing plenty more live streams because I love this. So there we go. I've kind of got, my base part of my lemon, and I can also see I should have got more of that line out. So now I'm going to make sure when I do my other lemons, I don't have any mark for a shadow or for where I want my yellow to stop. I can even make my yellow even a little bit thicker. Just clean up that edge a little bit right there. And so what I did was I just got a little bit of paint on my brush. I'm kind of brushing some of it off on my paper towel. And now I'm going to add just a little bit of paint. Just so that it looks like you're creating a little bit of a roll. you know, where the fabric is just kind of, it's folded. Okay, so now that I know I need to get those lines off, I'm going to, as I do each lemon, I'm going to try to get some of these lines a little bit lighter. Okay, again, just wetting it a little bit. And you can see I have a little bit of tint still left on my brush from the yellow, but that's okay because the lemon's yellow, so I'm not worried about that too much. Okay. So again, I'm taking the lighter yellow, the more watery yellow, loading my brush with it. And again, I'm going to kind of stay away from that area that's a little bit more white. And again, don't worry about this. And if we can't get to scrubbing today, then we're going to do that on another stream to get this finished up. Okay, again, so I've put my yellow where I want it. Wait, I think I need a little bit more. And don't forget, your colors dry a little bit lighter, and that always throws me off. It still does, no matter how long I've been painting. Okay, now I'm going to go back in and grab some of that thick, fresh color. Oop. Okay. And hopefully you can see how nice it is when you're painting with yellow. It's just a very easy color to build light values with. Okay. Another tip when you're painting, no matter what weight you're using, try to be careful about rubbing your eraser across your paper. It can actually mar the paper a little bit, so you just want to kind of be careful with that. Okay, and I need to get some of that area out. Okay. So again, I think to cut out a little step, just so you can see how I'm getting that water on there, I just tinted my water a little bit. So you can see as I'm laying that water down, this is just another way you can do it. Just tint your water a little bit. I'm just trying to stay away from areas that are really, really light. Okay, now again, I'm getting some of that yellow that's very thick. I'm going to let that little area dry, and then I'll come back and do that lemon. So I'm going to move down here. Oh, good. Sorry, I'm just looking, making sure that I don't get out of camera view. I like to stop and check that. I'm going to go with a little bit bigger brush. What am I using here? A number 6. Oh, don't know if you can see that well, but boy, there was a lot of red in that brush. That's probably a good tip to know about transparent colors and staining colors is they can really, really sink into your brushes. So you have to clean them very well. Okay, that's a little better. Okay. Again, I didn't worry about the line right there because it was in that black stripe. And again, just because of time and the fact that this is yellow and it's so light valued, I'm not worrying about the color sinking in. I think it's so beautiful how it's bright and sunny when it's really light, and it turns into that dark quinacridone gold look in the thicker mixes. Now for that little tiny lemon right down there. I'm just using tinted water again. It's such a small area. So that leaves that lemon in this area and this one. So why don't I just go ahead and not only do that part of the lemon, but right there in the inside of the lace. Now this lemon right here is very, very dark. So I'm just improvising again as I'm going along. Instead of putting the water down first, I just tinted the water with the yellow. Oh, I don't even see why I would worry about going outside of the lines. When we go and add that stripe, it's going to cover these lemons up, the edges, it's going to cover them up. Okay, here I go. I'm going to, let's see. Just want to lighten those ones up too, just a hair. I'm going to go with a super small brush. Let's see, what was I using? Number 2, number 0. Now, FYI, I didn't do as much detail. If I were doing this as an actual still life, something that I wanted to sell or show at an art show, I would be doing every little detail in there. But I just basically got the majority of the openings on the lace. I don't think in this case we just need to see every little detail. It's going to look good without all that extra going on. Okay, now I'm adding the darker yellow. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone for now. And give that just a quick dry. So I guess what I was saying earlier was I would think about doing that lace. It kind of solved its own problem. While I'm there, I might as well get that finished. It looks so pretty now with all the lemons. And it's nice that there's not a lot of detail. So you see how bright these lemons look now? Imagine how they're going to look when we get those black stripes in. It's going to be really pretty. I'm going to leave that little lemon for right now. We'll get back to that one. Okay. Let's just keep on with the lemons until we get them all put in. Then we'll go to the green leaves. And again, these are such small spaces that I'm just going to go ahead and paint them in with the yellow. I'm not adding any water first. So again, I'm keeping an eye on which one of these spaces has got yellow in it. Phew! Oh, excuse me. Whew. Allergies are really... Allergies and colds, they're very bad in our area right now. In fact, I'm going to stop just a sec and be right back. Okay, I'm back. Here's what's going to be fun is about when you're painting things behind somebody. I know people use the term negative painting, but it just sounds so negative. um, so we are actually going to be adding some shadows into these. So just by adding shadows, of course that one's going to be black, obviously, but I just went ahead and blocked it in. Once I go back to those dark values and put them in there, you won't even see that. Now this is interesting right in here. And so I'm going to talk about this for a minute, and this way if you're painting, you can catch up. And this is where observing colors comes in. Look at this here, here, and in these areas. If you look at the shadows right up in here, hopefully you've got your picture up, and if you need to, blow it up so you can really see this. The darker areas of the yellow, where the lace is reflecting, or it's putting a shadow onto that lemon, it's a darker yellow. But now look what happens when you come to here. You have an area right there of a shadow, but it's warmer, just like this. It's like a darker yellow, just like these areas that I have painted right along the edge of those lemons. But as you get over here, do you see how the shadow looks cooler? It almost looks like a greenish yellow, and that's exactly what it is. As you're moving away, different reflections, different areas are causing those shadows to change colors. That's why it's very important. Be very observant when you're looking at your painting. It's not going to look very real if we paint all those shadows exactly the same color. So what we'll do as we get down into these areas and I add those shadows, we will cool them off a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of the blue, and we'll make those shadows a little bit cooler and those a little bit warmer. And same over in those other areas. So really, really take time to look carefully so that you can spot those changes. Try to move around that. Okay, I'm going to do exactly what I said not to do so I can lighten up that line. And also, as you're painting in these areas, if you haven't got there yet, treat it the same way we're treating these painted lemons. Vary your yellows a little bit. You don't want, for instance, that's kind of right there. Get that little area under there darker. So you just want to make sure that you kind of vary your yellows a little bit. Be right back. That's really loud. All right. Here we go. And so I'm just moving around. What I might have to do is turn this again at an angle so I can get up in those areas so that you can see what I'm doing. I should have been more careful with drawing this out. There's quite a few lines I left out. And I'm always the first one to say it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. It's really starting to come together, even without anything else on there. You're really starting to see the lace jump forward, and it's really starting to make that cup just really pop and come forward. After I'm done with this little area, I'll stop, give you guys a chance to catch up. And I'll answer any questions. I love it when a painting gets to this point. I really start feeling comfortable and I feel like I see it starting to come together. think I'm at the point where I'm going to have to turn it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn it. I might have to push. Okay, I'll have to paint it upside down. That's okay. I do that a lot, actually. I just don't want it to be harder for you to see what I'm doing. Which is probably a good time to mention this. I turn my painting frequently, painting at it from all angles. I think it's a really good habit to get into. That way, it just gives you a different perspective. And as I was mentioning yesterday before, it's a lot easier if you don't have to try to paint an edge from this direction. You're better off using and taking advantage of your hand and your wrist and paint like this, or be able to go like that to the inside of a line. It makes a huge difference. It keeps your paints a lot cleaner too. On your painting, your edges, they stay very nice. So I always try to paint to the inside. I should have lightened those lines, but it's going to be in a lot of shadow, so I think by the time we put that shadow in, you're not really going to see them much, so. Okay, now on to these last few lemons. Switching to a smaller brush. Usually, as I'm finishing, getting up towards the end of the painting, I still have to go back and adjust the values. It's just like I was showing you on my little scale. Sometimes things change as I'm adding in all the new layers. I might see maybe that my yellow is too dark in some areas. Maybe I have to scrub out a little bit of the yellow, or I might have to darken it a little bit. Value is one of those interesting things where again, it's so important. It's so very important to get good value in your painting. Otherwise, it just looks flat and boring, no matter how nice your colors are. And again, you heard me say it yesterday, or if you're new today, I'll say it again. Color gets all the glory, but value is the workhorse. And that is just so, so true. You can be the best colorist in the world, and maybe your composition is just perfect, but for me, if your painting doesn't have good value structure, then it's just going to be weak. And a lot of people, too, will just struggle with trying to figure out why their painting doesn't look good. So a lot of times, especially on my Facebook group, and it doesn't even matter if it's not, one of my tutorials, you just need some help and you're painting something and you just can't figure out what it is, what's wrong with it. I'll take their painting and I'll put it in Photoshop and I'll adjust the values and post it back up, and you'd be amazed at what adjusting values will do for a painting. And all I had left was that one little lemon right there. I should say this too. When you're painting, it isn't just about value. But most of the time, if your painting is looking flat and you feel like you've got the right colors, that's usually what it is. It's usually the value. But it's not always just the value. Sometimes maybe you don't have enough, and there's a saying, opposites attract. Very true. So you have value, or you can call it contrast. So you have the lightness or darkness of a color. It's like I was showing on my little scale here. You have very light values and very dark values. Or your problem also may be saturation. So you may have too many saturated colors and maybe not enough dull colors to balance out those bright saturated colors. Another good thing to keep in mind, we didn't talk about that much yesterday, is temperature. So having, if you've got a majority of your painting seems to be warm, and you have good values and it still seems to be lacking something, then cool off some areas. Maybe take a background area and drop some water in it and add some cool blues and see how that changes. Another thing that you can do too is think about not just the temperature of a color, but because you have your colors set out in this color wheel, And we've got my color wheel I did yesterday. Think about what's to the opposite. You know, we've got our red, which technically is our magenta, and green. Green's its opposite. If your painting is majority green or red, throw in either one of those opposite colors, those complementary colors, to just make those dull areas pop a little bit, if that's one of the problems. Or yellow and purple, you know, same thing. If your painting's flat and it happens to have a lot of purples, maybe throw in some yellows. That always helps. Same thing with blue and orange. So you can always throw in one of the opposites. In fact, I'll tell you a really good example of that is, have you ever looked at movie posters? Especially for, oh my gosh, anything like science fiction or fantasy, the colors that you always see are yellows and blues. You'll see a poster in a lot of yellows and blues, or the purple, violet, and yellow. I'm sorry, orange and blues, or yellows and purples. And why? Because those are complementary colors, so it really makes those posters just pop. So yeah. Okay, so let's I'm going to stop for a minute. I'm going to see what questions we've got. I'm going to let all this dry, let you maybe catch up a little bit, and I'm going to flip this back over and answer some questions. Oh, okay. So somebody's making comment about the blue being cerulean blue, PB153 by Mission. No, that shouldn't be correct. If they're saying cerulean blue, they're misusing PB153. PB153 is definitely a phthalo blue, but Mission may just be calling it cerulean blue, and that's why you can't go by what the manufacturer's saying. In fact, give me a sec here, and I'll get out some of my charts. I might not have it on my sheet anymore. Oh, I do. Okay. So cerulean blue is actually PB35. That is the pigment number. Pigment numbers never change. It is a chemical, and it is a number that is assigned by an international organization, and that's it always is. So I don't know much about Mission. I've not heard good things about them, but I do know that that's incorrect. So Shannon's saying, this is the first time I actually saw the stripes you kept mentioning. Yeah, it's funny how you just get so dialed in and focused on one thing. Oh, greetings, Laura from Mexico. And Sylvia's asking, do you always paint the shadow grays first when painting a picture? I don't, although I am always open to letting the image tell me where I need to start. Almost always I start with yellow, because there is a yellow undertone even in cool areas to almost everything. To me, if you don't do a yellow first layer, to me a painting tends to look a little raw. Now that doesn't mean that I don't keep out of areas that are cooler. I do, but I usually like to get started with my yellow. Sarah saying, I've just come across this. This painting looks great already. I hope you do this again in the near future. Yep, I absolutely am going to keep painting this way. I am enjoying this much more than filming tutorials, which is almost like going to the dentist and getting your teeth pulled. It is so hard. And the editing is just, oh, it just takes forever. And again, I'm not going to abandon anybody on this. We're going to keep going until we get this done, even if that means we have to paint another couple of hours on another day soon. Okay, so Naomi is asking, is Winsor Newton Transparent Yellow PB150 the same as the one you're using? Absolutely. They, again, and I'll stress this, all manufacturing companies like to use these beautiful marketing names, which has absolutely nothing to do with the pigments that are used to create that color. So that pigment, and that should say PY, pigment, so the P stands for pigment, the Y stands for yellow. So pigment yellow 150. That color across any manufacturer, so let's pretend there's 10 companies that are manufacturing, or let me rephrase that. Let's say there are 10 companies that are using the pigment PY150, pigment yellow 150. That number was established, it's called the color index number, and it was established by, it's an organization, not important. Anyhow, when selling that color, that is what is labeled on that. They can't put another pigment in there and label it a different pigment ID number. It has to be that ID number. So PY150. M-Gram calls it Nickel Azo Yellow. The chemical name is Nickel Azomethane Yellow. Winsor & Newton calls it Transparent Yellow. So there may be another company that calls it Rainbow Yellow or Sunshine Yellow. So you have to ignore what the name is saying on the front of that tube and turn that tube over, or look online, look at the tube information on whatever website you're getting your color from, and make sure it's giving you the information for the pigment ID number. So yes, Winsor & Newton calls it Transparent Yellow. M-Gram tries to stick closer to the chemical name and calls it Nickel Azo Yellow. And Sylvia's saying she's loving the lesson. Aw, thank you, Sylvia. I'm trying to slow down a little bit today and stop like I am right now, letting you catch up. So, and chatting a little bit about color. And yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Nice. So hopefully everybody's catching up with the lemons. And I've pretty much got them in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started on the green. So I am going to clear off some of that yellow. I'm going to pull this back a little bit. And give me just a sec. I'm going to adjust the color on that webcam that is showing this color because it's a little bit pink. So I'm just going to adjust that white balance a little bit. Yep, that didn't help much. Let's see if... There we go. Okay, that's a little bit better. Yeah, it looks the same. Okay. So what I'm going to do is finish cleaning this off and actually go get some clean water. I'm going to be a little bit more picky about this palette, making sure it stays clean. And when I'm done with everything that's nice and bright colors, then I'll go ahead and switch back to my other palette for shadows. All right, give me a minute. I'm gonna go get some clean water. All right, I've got some fresh water. Before I go and mix up my beautiful leaf color, this will also give you maybe a few more seconds to catch up. I want to address that question again about someone asked about that mission color, calling it cerulean, and I'm not quite sure. I think some people pronounce it cerulean, saying that it was the PB15-3. If a company that you are getting paints from aren't forthcoming about what is in their paint, if you don't see on that tube of paint whether or not it'll kind of let you know, is it transparent, is it staining, the pigment ID number, how permanent that color is, buy another paint. The best companies, Daniel Smith, Winsor Newton, M. Graham, Holbein, they will all make sure that they have exact information on their tubes and on their websites that show all the pigment info, whether it's transparent or staining, how permanent it is. And that one is also up for debate. Some companies will still list a color permanent where it's been shown over years and years that's an awful color and it's just going to disappear. So you kind of have to take that permanency, the little bit of grain of salt, or experiment and check that color on your own. But if there's a company and they're not selling professional watercolors, or they're not being honest with the names and that pigment ID, find another company to get your paint from. Because you have no idea what's going to happen. You don't want to work on a painting and just be so happy with it and beautiful, and then find out 3 years down the road, you start looking at those reds and you're like, what happened to my reds? What happened to my yellows? They completely faded. So just really pay attention to the quality of the paint that you buy. And here's something else that's wonderful about painting with this limited palette. Look at this. You're not buying 30 different colors. You're sticking with 3 when you're first painting. That means you can buy the very best professional color you can find. And you're actually going to be spending less than if you had 10 different colors sitting there, or 20, or 30. And while we're talking about palettes and colors, I'd also like to say, I am in no way saying that don't ever paint with 3 colors. I have some pretty complicated still lifes that I have done, and florals with very detailed backgrounds, and I have actually gone to I almost never paint with 2 yellows. I pretty much just stick with the Nickle Azo Yellow. But there are some more complicated paintings where I want to be able to get a full spectrum of colors, where I'll pick a warm and a cool red and a warm and a cool blue. And usually that means I stick with my Quinacridone Magenta, but I'll also add Quinacridone Rose, which is a little bit of a warmer color. and then I'll add in ultramarine blue. I don't do it often, and sometimes I may just paint with just 4 colors, depending on what my painting is telling me. So I may just go ahead and stick with this one red, but I might add, so I'll not only use a phthalo blue, but I'll stick in an ultramarine blue. So I am in no way saying you can only paint with these colors. I'm just trying to say, when you are learning to paint, and no matter how advanced you get when you paint, and even if you look at famous painters, I can guarantee you that they use a very, very limited palette. They will stick with colors that they know, colors that work well, and they've figured out all the colors that they're going to need to paint the way they paint. So, but when you're first learning, it's so hard to try to use a lot of different colors. It's just, again, I'm going to say this a million times, it's hard to create harmony, and it's hard to learn. You have too many things to think about instead of just those 3 colors. Okay, so let's go ahead, take a little bit of the yellow, and I'm going to put it right in the middle there. I'm going to try to keep it away from that yellow. I don't want my green to bleed over in there. Pick up some of that blue. Little bit at a time. Oh, and see what I did? I didn't rinse my brush all the way, so I've contaminated my blue a little bit, but that's okay. I can get it out of there later. Okay. So I've got some green, and I don't know if you remember yesterday when I was figuring out the greens for those leaf, and this is lightened a lot, but I realized there are some areas of that green that need to be a little bit darker. So what I did was I just put a touch of that Quin Magenta in there, and I got my darker values in my green. So now we're going to watch that in practice. Let me lighten that leaf up a little bit. Check my brush again. Just wetting the area. Now I'm going to pick up some of that green. Now what I can do is pick up a little bit of that yellow and have an area in that green that's a little bit more yellow-green. So I'm varying my greens a little bit here. You don't want everything to look the same. And that was pretty. And then I can take a little bit of that blue. So I have a few different areas going on with that green. Just check to make sure I'm still in focus. Yep. Okay. So obviously, if you're looking at this, I'm going to use a really small brush now. I'm going to use a 0. Obviously, you can see in this leaf that there's a very, very dark area right there. So I'm picking up some blue. And then I'm going to pick up just a touch of red. But now it's kind of a weird looking green, so I'm adding some more yellow. So don't get frustrated when you're mixing your colors, just keep at it. See how my yellow is pushing away those other colors? I think that's pretty close. Let's get that out of that red. Okay, I think that's pretty close. See how beautiful that's blending? Paper's still wet. I had enough time. Can put a little bit over here. And now I can just sit here and kind of play with it and brighten up some colors a little bit. Okay. I like that. I'm going to give that time to dry before I come in and paint that. So let's wet this little tiny leaf up here in the corner. Now we need some of that dark area. I went back to picking up some more red. I'm just going to keep playing with this till I get this value right where I want it. Okay. Okay. So what I've done is I've created almost a dark olive green, but I want it to be a little bit cooler. So I'm going to go back to adding just a little bit. There we go. I don't know how well you can see that, but now I have that green I want. And now I can take a little bit of that and because this little leaf is still a little wet, can add a little bit more color. Okay, now we got those little leaves out of the way. Let's get started on this main leaf right here. First, I think I'm going to drop in just a little bit of yellow right there and up in the top. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop in some green. I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow again. I'm going to let that water sink in a little bit and go ahead and work on this leaf. And then I'll come back and just drop in a little bit of that darker color, that darker valued green, as soon as that water sinks in some. Grab some yellow. Oh, okay, let's do that little area right in here. Okay, we're right here. That's kind of nice. We didn't have too many leaves to do. but I'm going to turn it over and get those two leaves, and then hopefully that little area right there. No, I think it's soaked in enough, so let's go ahead. Oh yeah, that's soaked in enough. Look at the beautiful greens that mixed. Just gorgeous. And see how I'm going back and forth? If I see an area that seems it's a little bit more of a cool green, I'll add in some of that phthalo blue. If I need a little bit more yellow, I'll pick that up. And all the while, I'm not looking around a giant palette going, how do I get this cooler green? Well, maybe I should use this blue. Nope, I'm just focusing on the colors that I have. Just kind of blending out those edges with a little bit of water. I'm just trying to keep it in that painterly style, just the way the artist did. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that dark color right there, and it's still wet, so it's nice. Okay, leave those alone for a minute. And remember, at the very end, we're going to go and we're going to clean edges up, and we will darken values anywhere we see that needs it, and use the scrubber brushes and pull out highlights. So now I'm going to turn it around again. Let me turn my image so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Again, a little bit of yellow. So I just dropped that yellow in. Now I'm going to pick up that green. See how I kept my brush, started here, it was full of paint, and I pulled it until I got to that tip and let it go, because that's where that tip has got some of the darkest color. So again, now I'm using even darker color. I'm just letting it spread out at the end. Let me go back the other direction. So that bubble lets go right at the end. See how I've let some of those white areas kind of shine through, just like we're seeing in the image. I'm going to turn it back around. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and just add some dark. Okay. It's really starting to come together. That really gave it a little bit of life. So let's let all this dry. And then I'm going to switch palettes. I'm going to bring the other one back because I have all of those colors and it's going to be a little bit easier to mix that black. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to pull this forward. That way you can really see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start with the blue. I'm just adding it to those beautiful dark brown values I had yesterday. Because remember, the difference between browns and blacks is just the degree of yellow, magenta, or blue you have in there. So don't let that confuse you. And again, I just have been working with my 3 colors, so I'm not worried about, wait a minute, how did I mix that brown? Did I add this color in there? It's still the same mixture. I'm just adjusting it now. And I want to have a lot, so I'm really going to throw those colors in there because number 1, I want that value to be really dark, so I'm going to need extra paint to really get it on in those areas with where the stripes are, so can't see both those at once. Okay. It's really getting dark now. And at this point, I get to decide, how do I want that black to lean? Do I want it to have more of a warm black or a cool black? So here's my color wheel. And I've actually done a really good job. I've got a pretty neutral black there. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with what I've made. And there are, like in this area right here, I have a little bit more red. Right there, some of that yellow. And here it's really blue. So I didn't completely blend it out all evenly. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit. I'm going to pull this back over. Let me make sure. There we go. Got our painting back centered. Now, before I go adding in those black stripes. I'm going to get this dried so that nothing accidentally leaks into anything I've painted. I forgot to paint that one leaf. Okay, I'm gonna pull my color back over and quickly do that little leaf. That was funny. All right. All right. I'm ready to add in that black. And really watch and see how this is going to completely come together. I'm going to start up at the top here. Wait till you see how these yellows, actually everything is just going to pop. Isn't that amazing how dark that is? All without using a ugly black. I should have let that sink in a little bit more. Actually, what I may do is not add any water at all. Normally I would, but I want you to really see how this color blends so well. With everything else in this painting. That's better. Look at how that yellow just really jumped forward. I'm going to switch back and forth between my tiny brush so I can get those nice, beautiful edges. Look at how that really made that area stand out. Oh, had one more lemon over there I didn't see. Okay, we'll worry about that last. So again, I'm going to switch back and forth between a tiny brush, which is the number 0, and my number 2. If I was really being persnickety, I would actually go to a smaller brush just to make that edge, that little corner there, be nice and sharp. Right now I can tell you one mistake I've kind of made, and I'll just have to work around it. I probably wanted to get the lace done first because a little tiny bit of this black may lift, and I don't want it to, it's not really going to lift, it's just going to kind of blend out a little bit into those edges, and I may have an issue with that because this paint is very thick, which means a lot of it is sitting on the surface right now. But I'll address that when I get to that issue, or that area. I'll just have to be a little bit more careful. When I was doing my last still life, and some of you may have seen it, it was lemons and plums in a glass bowl on a striped background. And I went back and forth quite a few times. I wasn't sure, do I do the shadows, but I've got some of the yellow in. No, I need to go back and do the shadows. Oh no, now this might bleed over into this other area. It was a challenge, but it was fun. And every time I paint something, I learn something new. I actually think it'll be okay though. I'm not going to over worry that. Well, I think I'll make it with the amount of black I have. I think I'm going to make it. Ooh, caught the corner of that. Nice. I'm pretty happy with that so far. Oh, wait, right there, right there. Okay. Missed a spot. Aha! Forgot that leaf too, didn't I? So remember what I was saying and showing you on that, where did that go? On this little scale about how bright a white will look when it's surrounded by a dark area. Look at how that part of that lemon it just got really bright. I think I have all. Oh, no, I don't. I was looking at this little area there and I thought it was just a really, really dark yellow, but it's not. That's actually part of that black stripe. And just a little part right in there. All right, do I have it all? I think I do. I like it. I think it's turning out well. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a minute and let's check some questions. And TC says, thanks for the information on the silver white brushes. This is the first time using them since I got them. Enjoying this so much. Aw, thank you. Yeah, good. Let's just talk about brushes for a sec while, we allow people time to catch up. Expensive brushes are nice. I don't tend to like painting with natural hair brushes. They hold too much water for me. The only time I really use those type of brushes is when I do a background, and Have a ton of requests for doing a background, but I think I've been avoiding it because it's really hard to film and edit. So I think I'm going to do a background as a live stream. But yeah, most of the time, silver white brushes. Number one, they're very inexpensive and they last through a few paintings. And when I'm done with them, I put them off to the side and then I can use them for my live classes for anybody to try. I just love them because they have a lot of bounce. They're synthetic hairs, and they keep a nice sharp point and not too much water as I am developing details. So I love that. And then Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your process with us. It's truly valuable. Well, you're very welcome. Okay, most have the pigment numbers on the tube, but not necessarily the rest of the info, including M. Graham, Daniel Smith, Winsor & Newton. I go to the website and print out their color charts. Yes, that is very true. There's only so much info they can fit on there. But all the best watercolor pigments, all the best manufacturers, the most professional, will always make sure that they at least put the pigment identification number, the chemical name, and or how permanent. And usually companies will list that like with ABC, 1, 2, 3, usually 1 being the most permanent, 3 being the least permanent. But if they should have some of that info. If they don't have any of that info, again, move to another company. So hopefully everybody's keeping up. I am going to take a break for just a minute. I'm going to go heat my tea up and I will be right back. And I'm just going to leave this open so you can look at it. That way you can use it as a reference too while you're painting. Be right back. All right, I'm back. I took a bathroom break and went and freshened up my tea. Okay, I am really feeling happy about this. So while, and I'm guessing a lot of you are probably still working on that background, I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is just maybe darken up these leaves just a little bit and maybe some edges of the lemons. So I'm going to go back to my other palette. Okay, let's start with the lemons again. I don't think I have to do a lot really. I'm not wetting it, I'm just dry brushing some color on there, some more lemony color. And again, this is, it's painterly, so I'm not putting much detail. Boy, you'd think while I was up I would have got some clean water. Okay, hold on. Okay, now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little tiny bit of my magenta. Just needed to be a little bit more of a darker value than I could get with that yellow. Right along that black. Now back to the yellow. Again, just it's more of a loose style. Oh, and this little guy over here. And I'm definitely going to have to scrub out that little mark right there. That's okay. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I just softened that edge. I'm going to soften this edge so those shapes don't look so cut out. Just taking a damp brush, going right along the edge. To flip this over so I can soften this edge. I hope that you can see what a difference it makes when you clean up those edges. Just soften them a little bit. Okay, let's get that leaf in there. Much better. Let's kind of blend that out right there, and I think we're good there. I'm going to turn it back over. right, I think it's looking good. Oh, let's move that up a little bit. So now that I'm looking at it, that it's just been great for helping me to see all those values. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is let's go ahead and start finishing up all these little areas underneath the lace. And let's see how that turns out. All right, I am going to work right over here at one spot we were talking about. Where the shadows, let me get a smaller brush, where the shadows are kind of, they're a lot cooler. So what I'm doing is just dropping in just a tiny amount of that quinacridone, or I'm sorry, of that, oh, I can't think, of the quinacridone magenta. So I'm just kind of blending right on the paper, just because they're such small areas. I'm going to check to make sure you can see that. Oh, you can. So you can see how that's building up just a nice little shadow underneath there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that yellow and I'm just going to pick up a tiny, tiny amount of that green. I think it needs to be a little bit duller, so I'm going to add some, actually, let's see here. I'm going to make a little area right over here. Oh, wait. Add. Okay. Need a lot more yellow than that. Now a tiny spot of red. Okay, I think that's probably good. I'm just trying to dull this yellow down a little bit. It's that shadow that's blending up into that red, and I think that looks pretty good. Oh, found another little area where we didn't put any of the black in. Okay, let's go ahead and get that in. That's why it's good to have all your colors saved. And okay. Oh, all in there too. Yikes. I missed all that. Okay, let me get that in quickly. All right. Kind of do the same thing in here. It's hard to not get lost. Okay, oh, I see what I'm doing now. I need some of that orange right up in there. There we go. Sure does make the shadows a lot more interesting when it's just not what some people try to do and just make this a gray. Except shadows really aren't gray. They're more just whatever it is that you're painting with, muted. Well, so far so good. I'm going going to take my other palette. I'm going to grab just a little bit of that black that I made. And use some of that for some of these for some of these areas that are underneath the white. Just going to bring it along right into that leaf. And there's also a little bit of a shadow right there. Now that I've brought that shadow over here, let's add some of it in this little dip in the cloth right there. Little tiny piece right down there that I didn't get. Okay, I think I'm going to stop a little bit and let this dry. Take a little break here. Does anybody have any questions they'd like me to answer? Okay, well, I'll keep looking for questions. And then I think I'll keep going around and just filling in a little bit of those shadows. So let me build a little bit more of a shadow color. Whoop, I'll just leave that there, and I'm going to definitely grab some of that black that I made. And I'm just going to keep going all within the areas around the lace. add a little bit of a shadow over here. There we go. Before I get started on the rest of the shadows that direction, I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to wet this area, and let's get that shadow in there. So I think I'm going to pull my plate with all my darker values back. I'm going to wet that. What I'm going to do is I'm really thinning it out, and now I'm adding some yellow to it. It's very, very, very watery. And I'm looking at the time. Okay, it's 1:43. So I think we're going to have to do one more session on this. And what I think I'm going to do is maybe, if it works for everyone, schedule it on like a Friday evening, Saturday or Sunday. I won't schedule it yet because I want to make sure that everybody can see it. And even if you can't, it's going to be available for once it's done, once the live stream's done, it will be available to rewatch. But in the meantime, because it's getting close to 2, and I don't want to have everybody be kind of burnt out. I know 3 hours is a little bit of a long time for a painting session, but okay. So I'm going to do, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this one last area right back there, and then maybe, again, like I said, we'll pause and come back to the rest of it sometime this weekend. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I am not going to wet this. I'm going to use my very liquid mix of those grays. And I'm just going to, again, it's going to be very watery. See how I'm going right over everything? Okay, let's see. Shannon, I held off on the black because you mentioned you wouldn't normally have done it at the time that you did. What will you be doing with the lace? Okay, that's what I'm working on right now. I've been slowly filling in all those little spots. And so now I'm just kind of adding a super, super watery mix. You can already see what a huge difference. Lots of water. It's almost like I'm painting with complete water. I was worried, I'm going to say this, I was worried about that black, but look, I was able to go right over it, no problems. I'm just making sure that the shadow color in that area is a little bit of a variation. Making sure it's got plenty of yellows. Just picking up small amounts here and there. Look at that. See, I'm going right over the black. I was a little worried about that, but it's actually fine. So now that I feel like I've got that, lots and lots of water. Trying to grab some clean blue there. Adding it up there in that shadow. It's still pretty wet. Oh, right in there too. There we go. And look at that. That black didn't blend out at all. It was perfect. Okay, so now I'm confident about, so Pat saying, very surprised your black is not bleeding. That's because I guess I did have it nice and wet. And again, transparent staining colors. But usually I would have waited to the end, but I'm okay with it now. So I've got that beautiful shadow is in over that. And obviously you can see we still need to build some dark values in there. But I think what I want to do is go over the rest of this with a bigger brush. I'm going to use a very soft brush, my huge number 12 Dragon's Tongue. If you don't have a natural hair brush, don't worry about it. Just use the biggest that you have and just have a light touch. So here I go. And look at that, right over that black. All I really wanted to do with this lace, which I'm just wetting the whole area within the lace, was just adding just a tiny, tiny bit of that shadow color. And no, that area isn't dry. That's okay. It's all right if a little bit of it bleeds over. I'm sorry. I think I just, after I got back from from going and getting a cup of tea, I had a little bit of a lull there. I was just kind of looking, going, I don't know where to go. Okay, just being honest there, just throwing that out. Usually I take a lot more breaks when I'm painting. I'll usually paint for about 20 or 30 minutes and then stop. And I don't know, maybe we need to do that in some live streams. This is all new to me too, but I honestly did feel a lull. Okay, so back to my giant brush. I'm going to grab a lot of yellow, but it's going to be very watery. Right in the center there, lots of water. Now I'm just going to kind of, okay, I'm taking that away. It's too wet. So I'm just going to dirty up my yellow a little bit here. That's okay. Let me make sure you can see that. Let me scoot that over, that direction. Okay, with my big brush. And let me lift this. And that's a lot of water. So let me lift some of that water up. Should have been a little bit lighter with that, but it's going to dry pretty light, so. Now I'm going to take a clean cloth And just pick up some of the areas where it's the whitest. And again, we're not going to be able to see that really well until we actually start putting in some of those really dark colors in the back. Okay, so now I'm going to stop and I'm going to dry this. I'll answer a question first. When I was teaching, I called those breaks chocolate 30. Yeah, it's teaching it's interesting. I really love it, but nothing like really making you feel like you have to be on your game and be knowledgeable every minute is when you're teaching something. So that's okay. So, and actually what that did was really nice. It just kind of softened up all those edges a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and dry it now. Okay, I'm going to let it finish. It's just got a few more minutes to dry, but I want to stop and talk about it. So here is the point in the painting where you're really going to start building some values now. So if you look over to the side, I wet it. I mean, that was really soaking wet. And then I used, well, let's see, let's get my other palette back over here. I took this palette and I really added a lot of water in there. And I went ahead and picked out little areas of the blue, the magenta, and yellow, and I just dropped them in there. Okay, so let me move that back. And now you can really see there's a little bit of blue, and as you come down here, the shadow gets a little bit more yellow. This area right here's got a little bit of red in it. And in all that time, I was brushing a lot of water, and look at how wonderfully dark my stripes stayed. I am so happy with that. It just proves my point about painting with a limited transparent staining palette. That just turned out fabulous. So, and then I'm going to talk about what we're going to do at this point. All right, so then what I did was we wet this whole area, and I very lightly, where you almost can't even see it, I just dropped in just a little bit of color right in some of these areas. And then I pulled up some of the color with a paper towel in some areas that are a little bit wider. So now what we're going to keep doing, and I don't know how much we're going to do at this point. I really honestly think we could all use a break and come back again and finish up all the little details. So what this needs now is value. We need lots and lots of value. Just like here, and we are getting it in there. And boy, that really brought that background out. But we need to now work on that in the lace, and especially over in this area. So we need to get those dark, dark, dark without, without wetting it with my brush. We need to get and start pulling out those behind the lace, those little dark valued areas, and then all those pretty shadows that are behind the lace. Now they're not so much over here, because if you look, you can tell that the sun was coming from this direction when I took the photograph. So these areas are a lot lighter. And as we move this way, you can see that we need to start getting more of those shadows in there. And now, like right along here, you can see the shadows underneath the edges of this lace, where you don't see it so much on this side. So that's what I want to keep working on. I need to get a little bit more color in here and darken up these shadows a little bit, get some along the cup, and then the handle and this area. So I'm at the point where I would like to hear from all of you to see whether I should keep continuing for a little bit, or if you would like to see me do another couple of hours, which I think will be about enough time to get this finished up. So I'm going to let you look. I'm going to pause for a minute, and I would like to hear what everybody would like to say. And take a drink of my tea. But all in all, I'm really liking it. I really feel like I got some depth right here in the tea. It just, you can see the yellows and the reds underneath of it. We've got a little bit of the shadow here. I still need to do a lot. Still not a lot, but we just definitely need to build up some of those values. But I'm so excited how it looks. I think it's looking really, really pretty. Okay, Shannon says, I would love another live stream. Yay! And let's see, Peggy, I vote for another session. This has been great. Oh gosh, I'm so happy. There's just so much now we really want to do with that lace. So I don't want to let too much time go by. So I'm thinking next weekend we can do this. I'm hoping everybody would like to do that. So we've got two yays, but yeah, we definitely need to do a little bit more on this. But it's still been a lot of fun. Yeah, me too. Like, yay, yay, Naomi. Whew. Thanks everybody for answering. It's making me feel less nervous. I'm like, oh gosh, maybe people just don't want to see any more of this. No more. But Let's see. I'm amazed at how much better I can see the color on the lace on my iPad versus my TV stream. Different screens make so much different. Absolutely too. Oh yay, another vote. Oh gosh, I'm so happy. I'm excited. I really want everybody to get this done. And so I really want to do another stream. So yay, Anita. Anita, I'm hoping you're saying learn so much. I hope you want to do another couple of hours. I honestly really think that's all it's going to take. Just another couple of hours to get this done. And even if it took 3 and there's people that can't be there for it live, it's going to show up on YouTube as a video, and so everybody can keep watching it that way also. So I'm happy for that. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stop then, and we will continue this next weekend. I'm actually going for, and you guys let me know, we can post this in my Facebook Watercolors That Glow group, or back on my website where we can talk about how everybody's doing. And then you guys can either vote for a Friday night or a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon even. It doesn't make any difference to me. Oh, Shannon, I think sometimes the last 2 or 3 hours is when the real magic happens. So glad you are going to do this. Of course, that's important. We want to see this finished. I think that's important. I don't want to leave everybody hanging. So absolutely. And I actually enjoy the last couple of hours of a painting because that's when the magic happens. That is where you start building up just all these fun little edges, and that's really where you start seeing things start to glow. And Pat, thanks Debbie, you're the best. Oh, you're oh Pat, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move back to the front. Hi, okay. So yes, let me know. Just again, put it in a Facebook post. Maybe I might even do a little poll, and that way everybody can let me know what they think. And again, so I'll pick either Friday or sometime Saturday. And I'm just going to stream until it gets done. If people have to hop in and out, great. But at least you'll be able to see it once it posts live to YouTube, or once it posts the video to YouTube. So yeah, this was a lot of fun. I love this. I love teaching this way. This is great. It's a good in between live where we're all actually together, and videos, tutorials. So yay, Suzanne, I prefer to do another day. Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to do it then. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to give a stop time. Again, I am just going to paint until it's done, and then it will post, and hopefully everybody will join again. And if you can't, then you can at least finish watching it that way. But in the meantime, as the week is progressing, ask me questions. If you still want to keep working on it, you feel confident to do that, and I'll try to answer everybody's questions. You can again post your image on my website at the bottom of the chapters under the discussion, and then I'll try to help give as many critiques as I can. So let's see. So Shannon says, in many ways it's better than a live class because we can rewind, pause, etc. Yes, yes, that's true. I can't tell you how many times I'm painting though. Oh gosh, I kind of want to rewind this whole thing. Do I keep going, or do I rip this up and restart? But yeah, I think it's going to be fine, and I'm not ever going to take it down, so you can rewatch it over and over again. And that may actually even help you through the week until you get up to the point that I'm at. You can just keep rewatching certain areas and try to do the catch up. And then hopefully by the time this weekend comes along, we can all together get the rest of it finished. So um, I'm full of joy and happiness. This is great. I love it when we can all get together and do something fun. And I hope it wasn't stressful to anybody. It was very relaxing to me. There were a couple times, where I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what I'm doing. But yes, I love this. I want to keep doing this, and I hope everybody keeps watching me because it's a lot of fun. Let's see. Somebody else says, I watch live and then use the recording for the actual painting because I can stop it. Yep, that's about it. And I remember when I first started doing that, I would keep backing things up if I was lucky enough back then to find some CDs back then. And one person I did that with was Susan Bourdette. She's lovely. She's such a sweet person. I actually took one of her live workshops. She does a nature, like hummingbirds and all kinds of birds and flowers, and she's just absolutely wonderful. I learned a lot from her, and I would actually watch it for a few minutes, pause it, do exactly what she did, watch it again, pause it. So yeah, CDs were great back then for that. Let's see. Shannon, you are amazing. Your love and joy shows. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shannon. My new friend. I so appreciate all the help that you gave me over the weekend. And I also am going to say before we end, I thank you everybody for being patient. It was just that, especially last week when everything seemed to fall apart and I couldn't figure out how to get the live stream going. Now I have a workaround and I figured it out. So I just can't post it ahead of time. I can tell you, I can say now during the week, okay, we're going to start this live at 9:00 Saturday morning, just throwing a time out there. Then I have to go on, set it up, and then send everybody the link. But it seems like everybody found it and it worked out well. So I'm excited for that. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go ahead and end this, and then if anybody would like, we can go back over to the discuss at the very bottom of my website, that very last chapter. And if you want to just take a break and say, I'm done for the day, I'll send a question later, that's fine too. The good thing about discussions and posting pictures and even in Facebook is that we can slowly build up to this during the week and then start again fresh on the weekend. So, okay, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end this stream, and then we can go ahead and again either head over to the discuss area or later, and I'll keep checking back and forth on the Facebook group and so on, and then ask me questions all week long. I'm happy to answer and keep going till we get to the weekend. So, Jean Miller, did this come through? I'm having trouble using chat on computer. Yes, it did. There are a lot of people chatting. So my friend Anita pointed out that when she took the live stream and blew it up completely to her screen, the live chat disappeared. And I'm guessing that would have to do, and this is just a guess, that has to do with you're asking to see the full screen view. And now that I think about it, that happened to me once before. I was watching a professor who was trying to show a good way to teach on a live stream. And as soon as I blew it up to fit the screen, the chat disappeared. So you have to either reduce it a little bit to see the chat. But yeah, that happens. Oh, Jean, so I'm on my iPad now working well. Oh, technology, right? It's so wonderful for so many things, but my gosh, when it works, it's great. When it doesn't work, you're just, am I going to figure this out? But again, this was a good a 6-week journey for me, learning everything that I needed to set up this to do a live stream. So I'm really happy, and I'm not so scared of YouTube now, and I'm just totally comfortable with live streaming. So oh, it's more that the chat is disabled. I tried to send several times. Ugh. Ooh, that must be on your end. I'm so sorry. If I want to see the chat, I can't put the video image on full screen. Yeah, I don't know why you would think that it would, like, maybe move it over a little bit, but I'll just mention this really quickly. A lot of people were asking the size of the image I was painting. So what I did was I drew it out as a 9x12. And so then from that point on, you have to think about ratios. And a good way to think about this is, let's say you have a square. So square is called a 1:1 ratio. That means as it grows, by width, it grows evenly by height. So if it's a 9x12, that means as you enlarge it, it has to stay the same ratio. So it has to be consistent between your length and your width as it grows or gets smaller. So and the reason why I said that is because that most screens are a 16:9 ratio. So if it tries to blow it up, it's got to cut something off. So I guess they figure the one thing to cut off would be chat. So, but those will be some things we can talk about next week too, is again, maybe go a little bit more into paper and ratios and all that kind of good stuff. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to head over to my Watercolors That Glow website, and I'll wait there for a little bit, and I'll keep checking in on questions. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for being patient. Thanks for listening to my silly chatter and everything else that was going on. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and close the stream. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week, and I'll get that posted. Bye-bye.